Marouane Fellaini, where do you begin? No player has been the subject of more scorn at Manchester United from fans since Sir Alex Ferguson retired than Marouane Fellaini. Yet he outlasted David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, and countless Manchester United players. And what I want to do in this video is give my thoughts on Fellaini at Manchester United and maybe why he deserves a bit more praise from quite a few United fans. Before I get into the video, if you are new to United People's TV, please go down there, hit subscribe, hit that notifications bell, join the United People's TV community, but let's talk about Fellaini. For so many Manchester United fans, Marouane Fellaini is the symbol of our post-Fergie decline. In the last 5 years, if there's one player who sums it all up, it's Marouane Fellaini. And even from the day he was signed, David Moyes signing him on deadline day after a failed pursuit of Cesc Fabregas for more than his release clause, which expired only a few weeks earlier, it wasn't the best of starts. And Marouane Fellaini himself, he was never really a United-type player. And that jarred a lot of United fans. Some never got over it. So it really wasn't ever going to be a good start for Fellaini at Manchester United. It was never really his fault, I suppose, but he was never good enough to be a Manchester United player, and he was never the style of a United player. And for me, I always felt that United couldn't properly move on from this post-Fergie slump until Fellaini was sold. And clearly Ole Gunnar Solskjaer agrees with me because he sold him. The first player to leave under Solskjaer's reign. And if Solskjaer doesn't get the job full-time in the summer, he'll be the only player to have been sold by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But for a lot of fans, that will be enough. That being said, regardless of whether or not you loved Fellaini, loathed Fellaini, completely hated him, he scored a hell of a lot of important goals for Manchester United that really should be remembered. He scored last-minute winners in the Premier League against Crystal Palace, scored that goal against Arsenal last year as well. But his standout performance, I suppose, came in the Europa League semi-final against Celta Vigo. Second leg, won the first leg 1-0 thanks to that Rashford free kick. And Fellaini crops up. Nobody really wanted him in the starting 11, but he was there. Mourinho put him in, and he scored the goal that made all the difference in that game, and he was man of the match in that match. So that was probably Fellaini's outstanding performance in a United shirt. Then you look at the League Cup semi-final against Hull. First leg, he makes it 2-0 right towards the end, and we lose the second leg 2-1. So we win 3-2 overall, so that goal from Fellaini was all important. This year, Champions League group stage knockouts. Against Young Boys, he crops up right at the end. At Old Trafford, scores the winner. Man United go through to the knockouts without needing to go to Valencia and need a result. For as good or as bad as Fellaini has been at United, he's certainly scored a fair few important goals. So United fans certainly have to thank him for that. And over the course of his time at United, only 8 players in United's history have scored more goals as a substitute than Marouane Fellaini. When he was used correctly in the right way, Fellaini was always impactful. He made a difference. When plan A wasn't working, he came on with plan B. And more often than not, it made a big, big difference. But the issue was, he was often plan A. Far too often was he plan A. And that was a big problem. And that now infamous run that Fellaini made against Bayern Munich in the Champions League really sums up Fellaini at Manchester United. Fellaini was never good enough to start in central midfield for Manchester United, yet he was used there so often. And our football was always geared towards trying to get the most out of Fellaini when it really shouldn't have been. It went against the ideals of United, not the United way. And Fellaini was the antithesis of that. He was completely not the United way. And it frustrated so many fans. And if you look at all the managers he played under as well, so many times when there was a more creative player that could have been used in the starting 11 instead of Fellaini, Fellaini was used. That led to a lot of frustrations among fans. Then going towards the 60th, 70th minute of games, when the likes of Mata were on the bench, Fellaini was used. And when it didn't work, Fellaini was the scapegoat. Fellaini was the place where all the fingers were being pointed towards. And for Fellaini, a lot of United fans turned on him in that game against Everton. He was brought on at Goodison Park, obviously his former club, with United in control. I say in control, we were defending the lead, seeing out that win. He came on, gave a penalty away within seconds. Everton score, He's the reason we dropped points at Goodison Park. United fans roundly booed Fellaini in the subsequent games at Old Trafford, but Mourinho stood in support of his player instead of throwing him under the bus, which Mourinho did so often. That's where fans really became split on Fellaini. Those that were still in support of him at that point, some just couldn't support him anymore. But one thing, regardless of how many shit moments he's had, how many good moments he's had, one thing I think Fellaini deserves praise for is his actual approach and his attitude towards being a Manchester United player. I wonder where Manchester United would be right now if over the last 5 years every player had the same sort of disciplined, loyal attitude that Marouane Fellaini has had at Manchester United. Where would we be? Certainly probably in a better position than we are now. Despite knowing that so many United fans were against him and hated him, he never really reacted. And you've got to give him credit for that. And for me, there's a few players in this United squad I'd probably get rid of ahead of Fellaini. But that hasn't been the case. And so many other players could have had the same approach that Fellaini did, but they chose not to. So Fellaini certainly deserves praise for that. That being said, the contract saga that happened this summer is something that I could never really get over or forget. Fellaini effectively holding United to ransom because he knew his position of power as Mourinho loved him. He was looking after his own interests, and maybe I would do the same in that situation. But for me as a fan, it pissed me off to see United being held ransom by a player. The player power being in Fellaini's hands made no sense whatsoever. I wanted him to go at that point, if I'm honest. So right now, I'm obviously happy that he's leaving Manchester United. So my message to Marouane Fellaini would be quite a simple one, really. Thank you for all those goals you scored. Europa League semi-final, League Cup semi-final, late winners against Arsenal and Palace, important goals against Spurs. Thank you for those goals and thank you for those memories. And thank you for genuinely showing an actual professional attitude throughout the majority of your United career. But you should never, ever have been a Manchester United player in the first place. It was a mistake signing you, and it took Manchester United 5.5 years to correct that mistake. And now you've left. Hopefully that style of football leaves with you. Sometimes plan A doesn't work, but that plan B, that's not the plan B that works at United. It shouldn't ever have been at Manchester United, and hopefully it now leaves now that you're leaving. The plan B for United should be what we saw against Burnley. 2-0 down in the last 20 minutes, all guns blazing, everybody running forward, not just knocking it long simply to Fellaini. That now doesn't exist. But that being said, I wish you the best of luck in China. I'm sure you'll earn plenty of money out there, and I'm sure you'll probably have a decent impact as well. But for you to leave United now is arguably the single most important piece of transfer business this club had to do to really correct the wrongs of the last few years and move on properly away from Fellaini ball and back to the United way. Because with you at the club, Marouane, I'm not sure that could ever have happened. But I want to know what you want to say to Marouane Fellaini. So what would your message be to Fellaini? Let me know in the comments below. If you are new to United People's TV, make sure you go down there, make sure you subscribe and get involved. But until next time, take it easy.